Hot Wheels parking plates. This is a difficult series to complete. For all those collectors out there that have tried, you've probably noticed just how many variations there are in this series, which had a very short run, 1990 to about 1991. Some cars released in about 1989, but really just a 2-year spread. Well, I have since amassed quite a parking plates collection, and as you'll notice, many of these packages don't have a car in them. That is because I have opened them up. And here we're going to have a nice close look at all those cool parking plates cars. We're going to look at some of the variations, figure out which ones are the hard ones to find, the rarest ones, and just how much these little babies are worth. Stay with me while we explore Hot Wheels parking plates 1989 through 91. The Hot Wheels parking plate series. This is quite a difficult series to collect, as I've said before. And we're going to go through these cars in no particular order, just to give you an idea which ones are the common ones and which ones are the rare ones. And what makes those cars rare? Why are there so many variations? Well, like all things Hot Wheels, to this day variations are a fact of collecting. Starting with these Porsche 959s. Here we have the black interior, blue tint window, chrome ultra hot variation. It also came out in a black interior, clear window, chrome ultra hot variation. And the blue interior, blue tint window, chrome ultra hot variation. There are reportedly these same 3 cars, but with white hub black walls as well. In my experience, these cars typically sell for between $5 and $10 a piece in mint condition. It doesn't seem to make a difference whether they're carded or not, or loose. Which is an interesting thing, because normally with any sort of collectible, you would think that being in the package would make the car worth more money. Not so, as I have found while collecting these cars. Not by an appreciable amount anyways. Here is the 57 T-Bird, purple top, or purple and yellow tampo, black wall wheels. The absolute rarest car as far as the T-Birds go. I've only ever seen this one, which I purchased mint on card for $25, and I opened it. The most common is the same exact car but with white wall wheels. And it's probably important to note what the rivets look like for these cars, just in case you ever get duped into buying one that is supposed to be a black wall but doesn't have a rivet that looks like these ones. The second hardest of these cars to find, quite difficult, is the orange tampo white wall wheel variation. I've only ever seen one seller in Canada that had these in all the time that I've been looking for this car. Now we're going to look at some Camaro Z28s. This is a pretty common car as far as parking plates go. It's pretty much a $5 car with the purple tampo. Try finding one with the black tampo. It's next to impossible. You're going to be looking at anywhere between $10 and $25 for a mint example of the black tampo. Probably one of the most common parking plate cars is this Thunder Streak with the Krakow tampos. Nothing exciting about this car at all. I expect it to be about $1 to $5. And over here, an interesting little variation of 80s Corvettes. These cars typically can be found relatively easily with the red bag in the back. Check out this one, it has a black bag. That would be pretty difficult for a forger to try and get a paintbrush in the back of that car and paint that bag black. Otherwise, these cars are identical. And they do have opening hoods, which is pretty cool. The black bag variation, when found, is about $20. The red bag can be found for about $5. Here we're going to be looking at a small collection of Ferrari Testarossas. Silver metallic paint. These cars are also quite common. There is a small variation in the size of the Hot Wheel logo on the base. One has a small one has a large one. Most sellers on the secondary market won't even recognize that there is that small variation unless they're true collectors themselves. Therefore, it's really a crapshoot when you buy these cars as to what it has. And if you want to know if it has a small base logo or not, some sellers will have a hard time even understanding what you're talking about. Otherwise, these cars are identical. Reportedly, there is a Ferrari with the tan interior and white middles in the seats. These ones have gray. I've never seen one though. And on to the Sol-Air CX4s. Even from this standpoint, you can see the difference in the spoilers. So for these cars here, one has a spoiler that is integral to the body, as they say. The other has an air gap underneath of it. This is the older style spoiler of the original CX4s, since this casting has been around for quite some time. They both have opening hoods, and on this particular variation they have opaque, not see-through, black windows. This blue window tint variation, however, clearly shows that it has a very detailed metal interior, which is part of the base. I have not seen one of these with blue window tints and an open spoiler, but I don't doubt that maybe one exists. Farther out into the field, we've got the Cobra, probably one of my favorite park and plate castings. It has an opening hood, detailed engine, and luckily is relatively easy to find. So that's one's about $5, maybe $10. The Nissan 300ZX, also fairly easy to find. There is apparently a variation with a red interior, although I've only ever seen it once, and the seller canceled the purchase after I bought it, interestingly. I was not too happy about that. One of the rarest park and plates is the Bywayman. This came in at least 4 different variations. This one has a blue tint window, orange tampo with green stripe, whereas this one here has a blue roll bar in the back instead of the red, same tampos, blue tint windows. Interestingly, both of these vehicles I have seen once before with black tinted windows. They sold each of them for well over $120 US. These two examples here are worth about $60, and that doesn't seem to make a difference whether they're carded or loose, because I've seen them sell loose just as high as carded. An interesting thing to note about these Bywaymans, unlike many other Hot Wheel Bywaymans, since this is a pretty common casting, is that every one that I've opened, these are both blister-pulls, seems to have a failed rear suspension. The front is nice and sturdy. The back does not seem to have anything going on in there. So, Is it possible that I got two errors that are missing a rear suspension component? Another very rare parking plate is the Blazer 4x4. A cool truck that's only seen a few uses, and even retooled in 2012 without the opening doors for the Hot One series. This one is in a lime green with the CTS wheels. That one's worth about $40. Two common cars here. The 3-window 34, based on a Ford Coupe. This is one of the most common castings out there. And, with no surprise, in parking plates, there's a variation in the rear wheel like there are in many other 34 Ford Coupes. This one has the small rear wheels, so all small wheels. This one has the large rear wheels, small front wheels. Both those cars are pretty easy to find for about $5. And over here, a very nice example of the 57 Chevy. Both of these cars are identical, other than the 57 Chevy Tampo on this one. I have found that both can be relatively easy to come by, but usually due to being the 57 Chevy casting, which is quite popular among many collectors, they're usually around $10 each. And moving into the back, we have got one of the rarest of the parking plates, the 80s Firebird with the Formula Tampo, found also on the 1985 black painted versions in the regular mainline. This one usually sells for between $20 and $30 if you can find it. A beautiful example of the 40s Woody in metallic red with white walls. Note that it is not a high raker chassis. This one came out in 1989 and typically sells for $50 loose, as high as $75 carded. And unfortunately I got this one at the high end of the range and it became a blister pull. A very rare Mercedes 380 SEL. Often overlooked. You might find this one for a cheap price when really, under certain circumstances, bidders will bid this one up well over $30 or $40. It features the same paint scheme, tan interior, and black base, clear windows as the mainline cars of the early 90s for the blue cards. However, the difference being with the gold Hot One wheels. This car was also found in the mainline series with gold Hot One wheels and is even more difficult to find than the parking plate version. Most of these cars have silver Hot One wheels or ultra hot wheels. As we go in the back row, most of these cars become very difficult to find, including this version of the Sheriff Patrol, featuring the Police 104 Tampo, tan interior, and police decos on the side. It resembles very closely the mainline version, which was also featured in many playsets, but this one is not quite the same. If you can find that car, expect to pay at least $20 for it. And this one here, what have we got? Oh no, I've forgotten what it's called. Just checked the parking plate packaging that I tore these cars out of only minutes ago. This one is called the Hot Rod. Notice the variations include a clear window on this car and a blue window on this car. Also, this one has an orange interior and this one has a darker red interior. The orange interior version is quite rare and can be seen for at least $30 to $50. The red interior version, however, will command anywhere between $50 and $100 if you can find it. I've only ever seen this car once, and it is the one that I'm holding in my hand. The last grouping of cars at the rear here aren't usually that expensive if found, but this one is quite rare. It is a GT Racer, one of the best castings for racing on Hot Wheels tracks. You wouldn't dare put this one down a track due to its rarity. It can be found for between $5 and $10, but it is rare to see it. The Lamborghini Countach looks much like the mainline version, other than it has a white interior. The mainline version has tinted windows, so you can't really see that the interior is white. Note the spoiler is integral to the body and is one piece. Some of the older Countaches have a spoiler which is a separate piece of die-cast attached to the car. I'm still unsure whether that one is a variation that might still exist in the parking plates. But that car is quite rare and usually sells for about $10 or more. A common parking plate car is this 65 Mustang with the opening hood. You should be able to pick this one up for about $5. And that is my parking plate collection. Note that I am missing the yellow VW Bug, which has escaped my grasp on eBay 3 times in a row, each time selling for over $300 US. I do not believe that this car is worth $300 due to the frequency that I see it being much more common than some of these other cars I've shown you, which have sold for far less than 1/3 that cost. One of these days I hope to add it to my collection.